Welcome back to another edition of Magic Gaming Esports Academy webinar series presented by Florida Blue. I'm Kendra Douglas. And today we have a pretty special guest with us talking, Joe Gallant, head of league operations at NBA2K. How are you doing, Joe?
Doing great. I appreciate you having me. Excited to kind of share some of my background and hopefully it helps someone.
Yeah, no, this is a pretty big interview. I'm super excited to kind of pick your brain, get you to like talk a little bit about how future people could possibly be in your position or what it took to get to this spot. But you have over 15 years of experience in esports. Just tell us a little bit about like how you got your start to where you are today.
Yeah, I think it's kind of crazy to think about because like esports is such a young like space or industry. So I really got started in like the infancy of it. But before esports, I always like to say it was like before esports was even a term. It was like we just called it competitive gaming. It was, I think what really started it for me was a game called Halo. Like when that was one of the most popular games on Xbox in like the early kind of like the mid 2000s, 2007 range. I was playing the game a lot. I think there was like a documentary that had come out on like making the game Halo 2, and it was they were showing some of the tournaments for the previous game Halo 1, and it was a Major League Gaming event, and I was like, I kind of got me like, what is this? Like I thought it was so cool, and so fast forward, once Halo 2 came out, I was playing the game a lot. I decided to go to an event and compete. And just kind of fell in love with the competitive side of the game. Formed a bunch of teams and went to a bunch of events. Kind of like was on that kind of borderline professional, semi-professional level. Eventually, I ended up going to college and kind of didn't have as much time to compete. So I transitioned more into a referee / game admin role with Major League Gaming because I had made friends and built, kind of networked through my time as a player. And then, worked for MLG, and MLG, I was there for close to a decade, more as like a contractor for the live events. And so I would basically go on tour with MLG every season, and just help operate a ton of different games. So like I had worked on like you name it, I probably worked on it. It was mainly Halo, Call of Duty, but I've done stuff with Madden, I've done stuff with League of Legends, I've done stuff with some fighting games like Tekken, and over the years, and and so like I continued with them. Eventually, MLG was acquired by Activision Blizzard. And then a new company formed called Esports Engine. I went to go work for them, kind of like one of the founding employees. It was Adam Apicella's company, and then from there was recruited by the NBA to head up the 2K League, the league operations for the 2K League. And so like my expertise has always been around competition and competition operations. So just kind of overseeing the competitive side of the league and the schedule and kind of like our rule sets and that kind of stuff. So that's always been my kind of wheelhouse, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you just talked a little bit about how you were like a rep. Is that
Yeah, exactly.
Is that kind of like the way that you wanted to at least still be a part of this, knowing that you didn't really have much time for gaming? But how was that experience, knowing that like you might have wanted to be the player, but instead you were actually like telling the players, telling them, no, you can't do that.
It was a lot of fun. It was just the one thing I used to always say is like, I always come out on top as working for the league, because it was like, back then there just wasn't a lot of money or prize money in like being a player, so you really did it out of the love. Like you spent a lot of money to go to these, buy a flight, buy a hotel, all that stuff to just to compete, and probably not make any money or very little money. So switching over to the operations side, I was able to still go to the events, still have fun, but like, I was getting paid to do it, and like, it was more of a job. So that part was like exciting, because it was just like, all right, now I can, I can go from city to city and like operate these events and still like see my friends and still kind of have an impact on the scene, just like in a different way, if that makes sense. So like that, you know, that made a lot of sense for me at the time. And then yeah, I mean, like you know, back then it was still so small, so there wasn't like a lot of opportunities to do it full time or to like to make a career out of it. So like yeah, it almost, I kind of went away from esports for a bit and then came back to it kind of once the investment and that kind of stuff caught up to the space, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Do you feel like within your world that connections are so important to help get you to where you want to be? Is it, or is it what, you started in a time where it probably was super cutthroat because there was such little funding with everything going on. But did you feel like the connections that you had helped you get to where you, or kind of navigate you to where you are today?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like uh it's insane to think about like just the alumni network that be of like of Major League Gaming. You know, I think that was such a like such a moment in time of like I always joke like I wish they did like a documentary on just those years, like probably like 2005 to like 2012 of like just like the peak of Major League Gaming, because a lot of those people have gone on to, you know, are still involved in the space. Like, you know, you have Adam, who you know, Adam Apicella, who started Esports Engine, and he's, you know, he's one of the, you know, last year or a couple years ago, I think he got a lifetime achievement award for esports, and he, you know, he's done a lot. The commissioner of MLG was John Nelson at the time, and now he heads up Electronic Arts, and he runs the Apex Legends Global Series. So there's a lot of folks. You know, one of my fellow game admins was this guy Fwiz, and you know, now he was the head of YouTube gaming for a few years. And so yeah, like there's just so many. And I, you know, before we jumped on, I was talking about even you guys have interviewed a couple alum, you know, Ogre 2, who's now the GM over in the Call of Duty League, and then Toxic, who's like a former Magic Gaming player. But yeah, these are all people that I met through MLG and like that are still kind of involved in kind of the esports ecosystem. So you know, that goes a long way of just, yeah, it's a small world. And I think the one thing too for me is just like being a player. I felt like being a player always gave me a leg up in my career in esports, because you can and that's always where I tell, like, even like when students ask me or younger people ask me like how to get started, I always say like just start, you know, like actually compete, like find your game that you like, and try, you know, try to compete and go, you know, experience a tournament live, experience like a live event. Because that always gave me a unique perspective of like what do players like want to see from, like, you know, an esports league or a gaming league and that kind of thing. So so yeah, just kind of, you know, going through the motions of being a player, like kind of helps a lot, kind of give you a different perspective and like have that player voice.
Yeah, that's cool. One thing that I read about you a little bit was you attended your first NBA All-Star weekend with the NBA, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
But it was for 2K League, and it was the first time that 2K League was a part of this. What was that experience like for you? And how cool was it to see that the growth continues, that, you're continuing to move the needle, and how much
Yeah.
exposure the NBA 2K League gets?
Nah, yeah, I think for me, just being at the NBA in general was like a dream come true. You know, I think aside from like my video game love, I always had a love and passion for basketball. Like I played basketball in high school, and you know, always wanted always wanted to be in the NBA, even though I was not
Dreams.
nearly tall enough. But yeah, like so yeah, when the opportunity presented itself, like the 2K League, it was like, wow, this is esports and basketball. Like this is perfect for me. And yeah, like the All Star event was the first time the 2K League actually activated at an NBA tentpole event, which was like a kind of a huge moment. It took years of work to kind of get to that moment. You know, this past off season, we had actually signed a kind of a groundbreaking agreement with the NBA Players Association to do this. But you know, prior to that agreement, we were not able to use NBA IP for any marketing or promotion. So we couldn't actually use NBA players or use NBA IP to promote the league. But we finally gotten past that. We signed this agreement, and so this event, I'm actually wearing the hoodie. It was the NBA 2K League Alley / Showdown event at All Star. Was the first time we were able to to do something, and so we got Tyrese Halliburton. He's like an obvious person to get for
Yeah.
being in Indy.
Right.
We had Tyrese Maxey so those two headlined the event. We had like a kind of a mini 2K tournament, and then we also had the Alley, which was like more of an experiential activation where we kind of recreated like a Japanese cyberpunk type of vibe alley, where we were like serving boba tea and people were doing getting t-shirts, and there was arcade games and all that stuff. So it was a really cool experience. And I think it kind of highlights like where we're trying to go with the league in terms of like having our events be more experiential. I think that's sort of the where I see kind of esports trending in
Mhm.
the next, it's just like how do you create more, like how do you create an actual experience that is sort of different from the traditional sports experience. We're not the NBA, we're not Major League Baseball, like in terms of like you go to a stadium with your family and watch a game. Like I think we have to kind of like esports needs to kind of differentiate itself from that. And so this was sort of our way of trying to do that with the alley. I encourage people to check out the broadcast. It was a fun event for sure.
That sounds like it was a really fun event too, and I like that you wore the hoodie. I didn't even know you were gonna wear it. So, hey, it worked out that that was gonna
Yeah.
be the question I was asking. So, what are kind of the benefits and challenges of running a 2K League season simultaneously to an actual NBA season?
Well, yeah, I think the major benefit right now has been, so like the teams that are in their home markets, being able to, them being able to activate with their counterparts at the NBA side. And so a lot of our teams have been experimenting with using NBA players, and we've had some really cool cross pollination with this new agreement. So you saw, the Mavericks Gaming were activating with Kyrie.
Mhm.
I think I saw like a video series with the Pistons and Asar Thompson. Even obviously Magic Gaming having being on the broadcast. I think they had like a 2K night or something like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
That was really cool to see. So like I think that part is like a huge benefit. I think that the counter to that would be like the players are obviously NBA players are obviously super busy during the season, so getting them to kind of step away from their teams to do 2K stuff might be a little tricky. So yeah, I think we're just trying to figure out like what the right timing is for our season with that kind of stuff. So
When you see like the Magic Gaming have a 2K night, because it was something where it was unique and it was different. Does that kind of show you, like you mentioned, like you guys are trying to move to the direction of having, I guess, more an emphasis on having more people be able to, participate and be around that since, it is difficult to do that. Does that kind of help with the ideas that you guys want to go along with, of like having more events like 2K night with NBA arenas and showing kind of the people who are coming in to see the game what it's like for a 2K team and what they're doing? Is that kind of the cool, I guess, way that you guys see maybe possibly more teams, or at least continue to hope that Magic Gaming does something like that?
yeah, for sure. I think for us, just the impact of basketball culture and technology like is huge, and so like obviously the basketball in the NBA just keeps continuing to grow in popularity. So like it just makes sense for us to try to like kind of capitalize on that growing popularity, and like using having that cross pollination,
Mhm.
and then and just figuring out more fun ways, making it super fun for the NBA players to kind of get involved. I think a lot, they all play 2K, and so and they think they're really good.
Yes,
So
they do.
just giving them opportunities to kind of showcase, that they're gamers too, and I think there's some incentive for them too, of like of just like even thinking about careers beyond basketball and stuff like that. Even on, at our showdown event, we had some of the NFL guys too, like Micah Parsons, showed out, and like a lot of these guys really, they care about, their brands and building, even like the Devin Bookers of the world, the Karl Anthony Towns of the world, like they're streaming on Twitch, they're playing Call of Duty, they're playing a bunch of different games, and kind of building that audience. And so, we're just another way to kind of help them do that too, where like, providing them, a platform to kind of compete on the stick, so to speak. And so that's always fun.
I gotta ask you, did you ever vision the kid who was playing basketball, thought he had hoop dreams, the one who became a ref? Did you ever imagine that this career could happen within esports and just with being a part of NBA 2K? Like, did you ever think that you'd be where you're at today?
It was hard. It's very hard to imagine. Like, I think I always viewed it as like a long-term thing. Like this is kind of the future of sports in a lot of ways. But yeah, to see where it started versus where it is now, like it's insane. Like, I just thinking about the early Major League Gaming days, like, you know, there was a time where they didn't understand, like a lot of these cities didn't even really understand what Major League Gaming was. They thought it was like gambling and so like they didn't even want us to come and have these events. And then fast forward, now they're like, a lot of cities are giving subsidies and like or creating funding to kind of bring esports events into their cities and stuff like that. So that's been like super cool to see. And then like even just seeing some of the folks that have really blown up, who, like one of the names I always bring up is Ninja. Like I remember competing with Ninja in Halo and like playing against him, and you know and he would stream on this startup called Twitch, and people were like, what is this? Like, why would anyone want to watch someone play video games? And then because we, at the time, it was just like, you just want to watch the competition, like that was. But now this whole streaming world was taking off, and now he's one of the biggest names in gaming, and it was like playing Fortnite with Drake, and so it's like it was just like nuts to see. I think that always that part makes me really happy, of like seeing the success of a lot of people that you kind of grew up just kind of interacting with, if that makes sense.
That leads me to my next question of how the league has done a great job with featured matchups on their broadcasts, but how do you see a plan for an alternative viewing experience for some of the other games to get more attention, I guess?
Yeah, I think that this is always like a constant conversation we're having in the league office, like with league operations and the broadcast team, of like what are the different ways we can showcase. And so like one of the things we implemented this year was like the team viewer experience. So if you go to the 2K League channel, you can actually click on there. It's basically like a team viewer, and so we're able to aggregate all the different team streams. So we'll have the main 2K League channel and some of the alternative channels that show some of the non-featured matches, but then we also aggregate in some of the 2K League franchises who are competing that night and who may be streaming. And so some of them will have they'll have their own casters for their games, or and that, like, I know Wizards District was doing that, as well as like Jazz Gaming. So they were having like their own like casters kind of showcase their matches. I think for our alternative streams, we've been trying to experiment with different things. Like last year, we had basically alternative casters for playoffs. And one of the things I always try to push is like, I want to have just like all like player comms. Like imagine you go to an alternative stream and you're just hearing from the players, or maybe it's like or maybe one of the players who aren't playing in 3v3 are just like kind of casting the game, that kind of stuff. So I think that's those things are something, or what we've been discussing. But yeah, just always trying to create a better experience. having more player interviews on the broadcast, I think is something we've been doing more of lately. And just, I'm always a big fan of I think the fans tend to gravitate more toward players. And I think that's and you see that even in traditional NBA, I think there's a big group of fans who are like just fans of LeBron or just fans of KD. And it's like, it's even more so in esports where, they gravitate toward one of our biggest names, Bear to Beast, like he has a fan base. And so people will come to the stream just to watch him. So it's like, how do we showcase that more, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it does. And that kind of also leads me to the next question of how you guys have been able to do a good job of building that core audience. Where do you see the future of possibly growing that and reaching broader amount of people and trying to get more attention in that way?
Yeah, I think
I guess it's the first star you guys were at NBA 2K. Oh, you guys were at All
yeah, I
Stars.
think
So
that was
that's a great
yeah,
way to like help
exactly. I think
get more.
that was like the first that was like the first taste of kind of the new of like what of like the direction we're trying to go. I think, you know, I think there's always a place for like the top level competition, the hardcore competition of like what the 2K League is, and it's like it's the best of the best competing against each other. I think we're trying to figure out how to how to reach kind of a broader audience of 2K gamers who who play the game every day and that kind of thing. And I think a big way to do that is bringing in the NBA players who are obviously huge mega stars and celebrities, and kind of figuring out how we can how we can do both of like having having the competition, but also like leveraging the big name brands of our NBA counterparts and our from our franchise teams. So and then it's just like having more fun, I think. Like I think from like a creative standpoint, like one of the things we did in indie was like we had like a little game show, and then the trivia game show portion, and then that led to the gameplay, and the team who won the trivia actually had certain advantages kind of leading into the gameplay. So it's like trying to think outside the box a little bit of like of just trying to make it interesting. So we're working closely with just our counterparts at 2K, and just like trying to figure out what are the fans like, what are they playing, like what do they want to see from the broadcast, and just kind of like making like data informed decisions of like, all right, like maybe that's part of why we implemented 3v3 a few seasons ago, was just like a huge portion of the community is playing park and 3v3 style street ball modes, and so like why don't we try playing that in the league and see if we can like reach a broader audience. So it's like doing more, leaning more into that is something we're thinking about a lot. Yeah.
When you look at your career, what would be some of the advice you would give students who might be watching this and, want to be in the field that you're in? You kind of mentioned a little bit like when people say like, well, how do you want to get in this? You're like, start playing. Like, so like
Yeah.
what other advice would you give someone who, is going to be watching this and kind of want to be where you're at one day?
No, yeah, that's a great question. I think first it's like yeah, being a player is a great place to start, because you're able, I think finding your niche and becoming like an expert in that niche, like subject matter expert. I think that was a term we always use a lot when I was at Esports Engine at Major League Gaming. But we always would bring in certain esports subject matter experts, because esports is such a broad term. So there's hundreds of different games that people play and that they try to build esports around. So and different genres. So you have your sports games, but then you have your first person shooter games, you have your MOBAs and things like that. So we would always bring in people, if Major League Gaming was going to do an event around League of Legends, like we would want to bring someone in who was like an expert in that community and who kind of could speak, who comes from that community and like understands it and that kind of thing. So I think that's always the biggest thing, is like, what are the games you're really passionate about? that you would want to work on, and kind of work backwards from there. Um, and then yeah, like I think nowadays, nowadays there's a lot more ways to just get your name out there. I think when I was coming up, like, social media really wasn't as big as it is now. Twitch, when I was competing, Twitch didn't even exist. So like there wasn't really a way for me to like showcase my gameplay. Like the only outlet was really going to the tournaments and then hoping your game would be on broadcast or something like that. Um, so like nowadays you can be way more entrepreneurial, in terms of like getting, whether that's like if you want to become a caster, or you can get involved by hosting watch parties on Twitch and streaming and trying to build an audience that way, making content on YouTube. Like those are all ways to kind of like get your name out there. And then yeah, I would say like, for me, like the admin route was always a way too. Like, that I literally just started at the bottom of like being a referee, where, just doing a good, being a hard worker, doing a good job, making connections, and then you kind of just, see where that takes you, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So for you, well, I want to talk about Magic Gaming real quick because this is
Sure.
an academy. Well, this is for Magic Gaming. Words are hard today. Magic Gaming has made it to the finals in both tournaments so far this season, and they won the Switch Open. So, what has impressed you about this team this season?
Yeah, no, Magic Gaming has been super dominant, especially recently. You know, coming in second place at the first tournament and then winning the second tournament. Yeah, I think the biggest for me, it's been like unguardable. I would say has been.
Yeah.
I've I, I've been able to watch him grow from like the last few years. I came in the league season 5, and just seeing how he's evolved his game. Like I feel like he's gotten just better and better every year, and like he's kind of just hitting his peak, I feel like, as a player. And then obviously bringing in, having the top 5 pick and bringing in like a Jay Bullen. He's been awesome. And then obviously low key Godlike has been one of the best players in 3v3 for the last few years. Yeah, I think that part's been exciting too. Just even thinking about low key. We brought in the 3v3 mode. We use that mode to like open up our tournament, to have more of a grassroots feel of like anyone can kind of come out and compete. And so low key was one of those players in season 5 who competed for an amateur team, made it really far, and then was able to get drafted off of like his amateur success in the league. And now he's become one of the best players in the league. So I think that's it's a great testament to just like the structure we built of just being able to like give opportunities for players to kind of showcase themselves and make it into the league. I think that's been super cool to see for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if you can say what you have going on, but what are some of the things that you've been working on, you have going on, and that you're excited to share about for the future?
Yeah, no, I think yeah, I can't share too much,
I
but
know this is always my
um
favorite thing because every time we talk to someone, they're like, "Yeah, I can't share what I'm doing, but just know it's great." And I'm like, "Oh,
yeah.
that's fine. You can say that too." But we want to know, like,
Yeah.
what are you working on that you can subliminally chat about or talk about, and just what you have going on for you.
Yeah, I think it's like a lot of the stuff I've touched on. So like the main focus obviously is getting through the season. We have our 3v3 playoffs and finals next week. Um, that's actually our first live event of the year. So we'll be down in Washington D.C. For our 3v3 playoffs, and we'll crown a split 3v3 champ, and then we'll go right into five versus five, and kind of that's really the pinnacle of like of hardcore 2K League competition. So that I think that's the biggest thing that's exciting me, and then yeah, we have new leadership here at the NBA 2K League. Andrew Perlmutter has come in and kind of put his stamp on things, and we're just kind of rethinking a lot of the strategy and a lot of structure of kind of the league moving forward. Can't really say too much more beyond that, but I think they're, we're working really closely with 2K just to kind of like look at the data, understand where where the users are playing, and then looking to kind of build a league product that's like reflective of just like the community preferences, if that makes sense. And then secondarily, we're um, thinking about how do we really, we talked a lot about the 2K League Alley and our All-Star event. How do we build on that moving forward? Do we, are we going to activate at Summer League? Are we going to activate at other NBA tentpole events like the in-season tournament, for example? I'm a big fan of that one. So just figuring out that piece of like how what's next for our involvement with the NBA tentpole events, because like those events are just like huge drivers of like just foot traffic and like awareness. In Indy was kind of incredible how many people actually came through our space and got to experience that, experience the 2K League. So that's kind of the main focus for us.
It'd be so cool if you guys do it at Summer League, just because of the foot traffic too that you guys would get. Everyone goes to just see the guys, see what's going on, and then these guys also, like we talked about, they think they're the best of it. So these guys also play too. So that'd be really cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, really and like and Summer League is sponsored by 2K, so it's like it's just kind of like a natural fit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the big things that we talk about on here is mental health. And so I wanted to ask you, what are some of the ways that you've been able to prioritize your mental health? You talk about the season is long. So what are some of the ways that you're able to really focus, lock in, and be the best that you can be?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I take my mental health very serious. Yeah, I think the number one thing, I'm a big fan of going to therapy and kind of talk therapy and just like having an outlet that isn't like a family member or a significant other. So like, if you have the means, or I'm always a proponent of kind of speaking to someone and just kind of managing your mental health like it's your the way you go see a doctor. Every so often you should see you should speak to someone. That's the first, that's like probably the number one thing. And then I would say just like a day-to-day thing, it's probably, I try to find ways to like turn my brain off, if that makes sense. So like,
yes, I'm with you.
I think kind of like the root cause of of everything is just like overthinking. So it's like I'll go for walks and like listen to music, or like I'll put basketball is a big one. Like I'll throw on my headphones and just go to the gym and shoot around and like just pretend I'm in the league and like and just I think that's always therapeutic. And then obviously gaming is a big one. I still try to find time to get on with the guys and play some of the play some of my play some Halo, play some Apex Legends, and and just kind of compete a little bit, like and that's always fun for me too.
I gotta ask you, who is your favorite player growing up, like basketball wise? Who are you trying to be on the court?
I would say like that. My NBA comp was I always joke was Jason Williams, White Chocolate. Like he was like one of my favorites growing up on the Kings. My all-time favorite player though is just I was a New Jersey Nets fan growing up, so Jason Kidd was always my guy. I went to my uncle had season tickets when I was a kid, so I used to go to all those games when they were making their runs in the playoffs. And I think we went to back-to-back finals. Didn't win either one, but those runs were like I kind of grew up with that team. So that's what kind of started my love of basketball for sure, was like those teams.
So cool. Do you follow like just the regular NBA too now? Like do you
Oh
follow
yeah.
them? Like who are you looking at now? Like who do you like follow along or watch now?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm a big Nets fan, so I've stuck with
Okay.
Brooklyn. I go to a lot of games. obviously I've been falling in love more with the women's game these last couple of years. I've been going to a lot of Liberty games.
Right.
Like just the run last year was like awesome. I was at a lot of those playoff games, and I think I went to like one of the Eastern Conference Finals games. But yeah, like Sabrina's been awesome to watch,
Mhm.
and Brianna Stewart, and even like the college stuff with Caitlin Clark has been insane. So yeah, I think that's been grabbing more of my attention, and then I think from the men's side, the NBA side, I'm a huge Anthony Edwards guy right now. I think like he's
Okay.
probably he's probably like the young up and coming guy that I like. And then like from the Magic side, I'll probably say Paolo, just because he's got the Italy background. So I love that. I can't wait to see him compete like internationally. There's a lot of like really good international talent in the
Mhm.
league right now. Like obviously Wembayama, and Jokic. So like that's been really interesting to see and cool to see. It was just like the rest of the world is sort of like catching up in terms of
Yeah.
basketball, and like we even see that on the 2K League side. Like I didn't really get to talk about that as much, but we've done a lot of activations internationally. Like last year we went to Philippines. Before that we went to Australia, and like the passion for NBA out in those countries was really eye opening for me.
Really?
That part
Wait,
was really fun.
yeah, wait, if you can elaborate a little bit on that, that's because
Yeah.
that's cool. You're right. We didn't get a chance to talk about that, but elaborate a
No,
little
yeah.
bit.
Yeah, no, I think that was like just thinking about areas for growth for the league. Like I think the international piece is a big one.
Mhm.
Um, we Part of our league structure is we would have these international invitationals. So we would give countries, other countries outside the U.S. a chance to get players in the draft pool. So we would host tournaments. And so last year we had announced a partnership with Signal. It was part of a broader NBA partnership with Signal to broadcast NBA games in the Philippines. That's
Mhm.
like their biggest, telecommunications company in the Philippines. And so as part of the deal, we had our APAC, Asia Pacific Invitational. We had a live event in Manila, like net last November, and so so a bunch of us at the league went out to Manila, and we hosted a 5v5 NBA 2K tournament, like 2K League style tournament. And it was incredible. I mean, like we had players from all over the region. I believe like we had a team. We had teams from Australia, New Zealand, teams that were based in Philippines, Indonesia, and like just all around kind of came out for this tournament, and we crowned a champion, and all those players made it into our draft pool. But the event was actually broadcast like on NBA TV in Philippines, and so like it was just it was insane. But like the turnout we got, and just like the excitement, it was like the first time they had done really anything like any kind of 2K League or NBA 2K Esports like type of event there. So yeah, that was like super fun. Yeah.
That is so cool. I didn't even that is so cool that you got to experience that and be a part of that as well, and I'm sure that just kinda goes to show, like, how you guys are gonna be continue to broaden your horizons, like, internationally. That's so neat.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, first off, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. Joe, like, is there for those who are gonna watch, what is the best way to connect with you? How can people follow you? Just, all your social media, maybe LinkedIn stuff. What is the best way people can contact you?
Yeah. No, I think I would say like I'm probably the most active on like Twitter and LinkedIn. So it's at Joey underscore expert on LinkedIn. Expert was always my gaming handle, just like from playing Halo and Call of Duty and those kind of games. So I just kind of kept that in my Twitter was always like the number one platform for esports. Like
Yeah.
that for whatever reason, like all the gaming communities and orgs and players, like we just it was always Twitter for like for a while, for a long time, and then like more lately as I've kind of become more of a professional, I think LinkedIn has been really interesting. So just Joseph Gallant on LinkedIn, but I'll tend to chime in every now and then when there's esports news, or just like share what I'm working on in the league, and just try to like kind of spread the awareness of like what's going on.
I do believe that for some reason Twitter just continues to just be like, that is the most where I get everything too. I'm just like, I don't like, I'm like, I mean, Instagram's like the coolest thing out there. And I'm like, I spend more time on Twitter now because I'm like, that's what the fans want. So,
Yeah, like with all the like the transition like that they've had as a platform, I was always like, I hope it doesn't go away, because like
yeah.
there's like that's like where the entire like gaming esports, like I guess like Twitter and Reddit, and like it's like if that just goes away, like entire
Lose
communities would
contact.
disappear.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I
basketball
would,
Twitter, yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
a
yeah.
thing
It's
for
gonna go
sure.
away. And you're like, where do we go now? Let's just look
Yeah,
at great.
exactly.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. This has been another edition of Magic Gaming Esports Academy webinar series presented by Florida Blue. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to follow Magic Gaming at Magic Gaming and on Twitter and on Instagram. So thanks.